You thought things would be better in life, and they're not better in life. And I suppose the ultimate why question, when we find ourselves deep in frustration, feeling like it's confusing, feeling like it's out of control, the question we tend to ask more than any is this one. It's just, why, God? Why have you abandoned me? I mean, God, do you even know what I'm going through? Do you even know what I'm experiencing? Do you even care, God? Are you even out there? God, why have you abandoned me? And odds are you've asked that question. History actually tells us that a man named Job asked that question about 4,000 years ago. And let me describe his life to you. And as I describe his life, I actually want to use the letter U, because the letter U might describe his life, but I would suggest it might also describe what your life could be like. And so Job, if I start at the top of the U, Job, his life was good. I mean, he was a rich man. He was a very wealthy man, had lots, 4,000 years ago he lived, so wealth was looked at in the number of livestock that you had, and so Job was considered a wealthy man, had a great family, life was good. He's at the top, everything is good for Job, and yet we're told in history that all of a sudden things began to change where he wasn't at the top anymore, he began to slide, and the way history describes his slide, it says he was at his house one day when a person came in and said, Job, I need to tell you something. He said, I need to tell you that there were raiders that came, they stole all of your oxen and donkeys, they killed all of your farmhand, and then this person used this phrase, he said, you know what, I'm the only one who escaped to tell you this, Job, and all of a sudden Job's life begins to unravel a little bit. Now interestingly, history says, while that person was telling him that, somebody else comes in, while this guy was still speaking. We're told another guy comes in and says, Job, I just need to tell you, fire actually fell from heaven, Job, and burned up all of your sheep and all your shepherds. And oh, by the way, Job, I'm the only one who escaped to tell you this. And Job's life begins this slide. It begins to unravel. It is becoming chaotic. But history says, while that guy was still speaking, another person comes in. He says, Job, you're not going to believe this, but your camels, they've all been stolen. The servants, they've been killed. I'm the only one that escaped to tell you this news. Job and his life continues to slide, and it continues to unravel. And history's not done yet, though. It says, same time, while that guy was still speaking, another person comes in. He said, Job, I just need to tell you, you might want to sit down for this one, Job, because there was a powerful wind that blew up, and this powerful wind, it actually hit a house, and that house had all of your sons, all of your daughters. They were celebrating together. The house caved in. Your sons, your daughters, everyone died. I am the only one that escaped to tell you this news. And you just kind of go, can't get any worse for Job, but it does, because history actually says that Job contracts this kind of disease where boils just covered his entire body. And we're actually told that he would take pieces of pottery or broken jars of clay, and he would just scrape his body with it, trying to get some relief from the irritation from these boils. And you kind of go, good grief, how low could he possibly go? And Job asked the question that all of us ask. He says, why? He even actually says, why, God? Why have you abandoned me? Why are you doing it to me? Listen to what he actually says. He says, I'm disgusted with my life. Maybe you've said that about your life. Let me complain freely. My bitter soul must complain. I will say to God, don't simply condemn me. Tell me the charges you're bringing against me. Saying, why, God? Tell me. Why are you allowing this to happen in my life? He goes on. He says, what do you, God, gain by oppressing me? Why do you reject me, God? The work of your own hands while smiling at the schemes of the wicked? I mean, look what's happened to me, God. Why are you allowing this to happen to me? And have you abandoned me? He looks for God in the situation, and later he writes this. He says, I go east, but God, he's not there. I go west, but I cannot find him. I do not see him in the north, for he is hidden. I look to the south, but he is concealed. And he's just going, God, I don't know what you're doing. If you're there, if you know, if you care, I don't know what is happening here, but you've thrown me this curveball and you seem to be nowhere in sight, and my guess is you've experienced the slide yourself. My guess is this isn't something new to you. I mean, maybe not to the extent that Job did, maybe not in the same way that Job did, but you would say, you know what, I've experienced that slide. At the beginning of the week, Jesus was at the top of the world. Everything was going well. I mean, he was at the top of his game, and everybody was kind of excited about him. Huge crowds were following Jesus. They would show up to listen to him talk. They would show up to watch him do his tricks. He was healing people. They'd never seen anybody do something like that before. So everybody wanted to come out and see Jesus. Beginning of the week, he's the hero. He walks into town. He actually rides into town, and he's riding into town on this donkey that everybody, they're so excited to see him, they take their coats off and they throw him on the ground so that he can ride across their coats. So they throw palm leaves down so he can ride across the palm leaves because he's royalty, he's king, and they're excited about Jesus at the beginning of the week. He's at the top. But the slide begins to happen on Thursday. On Thursday, Jesus is arrested. On Thursday, he's mocked, he's ridiculed, he's abused, he's put on trial. And by Friday morning, he's nailed to a cross. By 3 o'clock on Friday, Jesus takes his last breath. But before he takes his last breath, do you know what he says? He says the same thing that you say, the same thing that Job said, the same thing we all say. His last words were, my God, why have you abandoned me? He's at rock bottom. It's this at rock bottom that I think is helpful for us to understand something about God. There's a term that we use to describe something about God. It's a concept that we use, and the concept is called the providence of God. Let me define the providence of God for you. The providence of God is God just setting things up so that what he wants to happen will happen. It's God taking the chaos of your life, of my life, of all of our lives, and he's mixing it up and putting it together so that what he wants to happen will happen. It's when we find ourselves at rock bottom that we need to understand about the providence of God, because we think God's non-existent. We think God's not there, but what if he is there? What if the providence of God is active and fully engaged with us when we find ourselves hitting rock bottom? The problem is, with providence, we prefer autonomy over providence. In other words, we want to be in control. We say, God, that's great that you're working something, but I'd rather just kind of make sure I stay up here. I'm going to take control. Because the problem is, we would rather be in charge rather than have God leading us, mixing the things together in our lives. Beyond that, not only a problem, the danger is when we find ourselves sliding down, we begin to think, you know what, I think I could do better than God at this. Somehow he's allowed me to get this far. I'd better jump in and take control, because who knows how low it's going to go, who knows what he's going to do. And we think somehow we can mix things together better than God can. And so that's dangerous. The truth is, regardless how things appear, God is in control. And as you're taking that slide down, you may not see it, you may not recognize it, but God is in control and he's working and it's his providence. And you say, right now, I'm so deep in this space between the you, I don't think anything good is going to come of it. And so, Dave, don't talk to me about the providence of God. But I would tell you that's exactly why we need to talk about the providence of God. See, at the first of the week, Jesus is at the top of the game. I mean, he's at the top. And he slides down Thursday, he's on the cross on Friday. On Friday, everything looks bleak. On Friday, everything looks hopeless. But what you need to understand is because of the providence of God, it may be Friday, but Sunday is coming.